Hey guys, welcome to my makeshift studio. I'm sorry it's not as cute as my last one, and I realize there's an elephant butt above my head, but this is what I have to work with. So today I just wanted to talk a little bit about fabrics and how your prints can be affected by the type of fabric that you choose, and also like the end use of your fabrics. So block printing, you can do anything from like small tote bags. You can do, pillows. You can, you can even do like big upholstery projects like what I do. So today I just kind of wanted to go over a couple of different kinds of fabric things that you may come across and just kind of show you how they print. So I went ahead and I got a couple different kinds of swatches. The first one I got was, it's like a cotton linen, and this is usually what I print on. I usually print on a light colored cotton linen piece of fabric. You can see that it's got a little bit of texture to it, but not too much, enough that it will actually screw up the design if I have a little bump in it. I also got what they call a quilting cotton. This is just a navy blue one. I wanted to show you what it will look like when it's on a really dark fabric. So quilting cotton is actually great for printing on because it's real thin. You can use it for a lot of different things, especially like quilting, or what else, like shirts, or like, I don't know. There's like a ton of uses for cotton. But it's really nice because of the weave. It's woven. Next up, I got a little chenille. And the chenille is basically like, I just found this out, but chenille in French means caterpillar. And if you can tell, it's a little furry. And in general, I don't print on anything furry. So we're gonna just test this and see what happens. I thought it would be an interesting experiment. Last but not least, I got a little burlap. Can you see me through this? So basically you can see that there's a lot of holes in this guy. It's woven as well, but there's a lot of air in between. It's not loosely, it's loosely woven. So basically I'm going to show you what it looks like with a really detailed design on it, and I'm going to show you what it looks like with a not so detailed design on it, so you can kind of see what kind of patterns would work on something like this. When I did my first block printing project of all time ever, I printed it actually on burlap, and it came out really cool, but only because my design was so basic and simple. So I'll show you the differences there. Oh, and I have one more. I couldn't even see it because it's so thin. This is a sheer. So this is actually a really, really sheer. It's tightly woven, but it's just, there's like absolutely nothing to it. So I'm going to show you what happens when you print on something like that. Obviously, like there's different ranges between like thicknesses, like from cotton to sheer, there's like a bunch of ranges in between there. So, okay, so first off, I'm going to start with a brighter color so you can easily see it and see how it comes out. So I'm just gonna grab some of my paint. Don't need that much. Like I always say, just a teeny bit. You can always add more, but you can't take it away. Okay, roller. Just gonna thin this up. Can you see what I'm doing? Just gonna thin that out a little bit. And I have a couple of blocks to choose from. I have some that are a little more bold, and I have some that are a little more detailed. So I think I'll start with the bold one. Okay, so this is the one I'm gonna start with. If you've taken my class, this probably looks familiar because actually this was a piece of student work. But I'm gonna take this and I'm going to just apply a little bit of ink, and I'm gonna print it first on the fabric that I would normally choose to print on, which would be this like cotton linen. So I'm expecting a really good result from this because this is just what I'm used to printing on. I can tell by looking at it that the weave is gonna make a really nice print. So I'm just gonna take it, give it some pressure, and we have basically a perfect print. You can see every little bit of the design. It's got a little bit of texture to it. You can kind of see real up close where the lines are coming through, but it actually adds to the design. So this is what I would call a great success. Cotton linen. And it also comes in different weights. The weight is not super important as far as printing, but the weight is kind of important, not kind of, really important when it comes to your end product. So if you so this is like a thin to medium weight, and something like this would be great for pillows, but something like this would not be good for like a chair. You could also use this for something like drapes. So I will send you guys a handout with kind of different weights and different fabrics and kind of what they would be best for. The application. Okay, so next up we have this quilting cotton. And the quilting cotton is really thin. It's kind of got a similar weave to this over here, but I want to show you how a bright color might show up on a dark fabric. I'm going to add a little bit more ink. I'm going to use the same block. So we got that. And then I'm just going to stick it right in the middle. And let's see how that shows up. Okay, actually better than I thought. So that actually didn't come out too bad. I'm accustomed to pretty much printing only on lighter colored fabrics just because I like the contrast. But this didn't come out too bad. I think maybe I would give it a little bit of white in it to make it pop a little bit more. But in general, it actually worked out okay. So when it comes to dark colors, most of the time, I'd say most of the time they'll be okay, but you always want to double check before you start a big project to make sure that that color is actually going to stand out on the fabric that you chose. Quilting cotton. All right, next up, we're gonna try the chenille, which I'm really curious about. I think it might come out okay. I think the problem with the fuzzy yarn is that it won't wear well. So like if you put it on pillows and you had it on your couch for a while, I feel like, people sitting on it, moving it around and washing it, because you're gonna wanna wash your couch pillows, I feel like that would actually wear off a lot quicker. But you can always like do a test and just kind of see how it wears. So we're gonna do the same thing. I think the color will be nice on here, but I'm gonna really push hard on this so it gets in all the little grooves. So chenille in general, I think, is usually like a natural fabric, but I think it also can be made with acrylic, and I think this piece in particular is acrylic. You can't really tell the difference. Oh, wow. Okay, well, the print came out really nice. I think the colors are really nice. If you look at the texture a little bit, you can see that texture coming through, and it actually looks really cool. I would just be worried about, like I said, wearing. So as long as you could set this, because when you're setting things, you need to flip it over after it dries and then hit it with an iron. So I would think that, as long as you set it on an acrylic setting and it didn't start melting, you would be good. Okay, so, apparently it was doing okay, but, at your own risk. Still at your own risk. All right, second to last, we got burlap. So this will be really interesting. Actually, maybe I should do this one last because this one's gonna pick up a lot of crap on my block. Okay, we're gonna do the sheer next. So let's reapply. I'm thinking this is just gonna go straight through. But it'll obviously show up since it's so light. Oh yeah, it's like I made two prints at the same time. 1, 2. So this actually looks really beautiful. It came out nice and sharp. I gotta try and get out from behind it so you can actually see it. It came out nice and sharp. There's not a lot of extra ink, but it actually has a little bit of a texture. I think it would hang really nicely too. So, you know, you could do something like this, like a curtain or like a sheer curtain would be really nice. Again, you're gonna have to set it very delicately. So I would think that you would probably put it on, I can't remember what this one was made out of. I think it's synthetic though. So you just wanna make sure and put on synthetic setting because stuff like this burns and melts and you don't want that to happen. You don't want this melted to your iron for life. So definitely make sure you set it. And then something like this would probably be hanging in a window most likely. And with that, you have to kind of worry about fading a little bit. So if you would have to kind of keep an eyeball on these and kind of like make sure it's not fading too much, but I would do some testing. Maybe do some swatches and hang them in the window for a week or so and see what happens. And last but not least, we'll do the burlap. I'm gonna add a little more ink because the burlap, it's gonna soak up a lot more of the ink because it's like a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like an unfinished fabric. It's raw. So it's gonna just soak that ink up. Okay. So I'm thinking that this print will be fine, but I'm gonna show it to you with a different block as well. So we got this block, stick it on the burlap. And okay, so here's where the issues come in. So this one has a lot more texture. You can see that the weave of it and like the holes in between the fibers are affecting the design a little bit. It's not too bad because this design is actually pretty bold. There's not a lot of detail in it. So now I'm gonna show you an example of how it would look. Here we go. How it would look with a different, more detailed design. So this is a really detailed block that took me 4 hours to do. This was for a drapery project for an architect, and I did about 10 of these. If you've taken my class, this looks familiar to you. So there's a ton of little details in there, and I'm thinking that none of these little details are gonna show up very well on here. But let's test it. Do a little more paint. Okay. Make sure and cover it. Okay. So here's the block. And I'm going to put it on the burlap. Really get in there with this one. All right. Yep. Just as I suspected. You really can just see kind of the outline. You're not going to really catch any of those details that you could because the burlap is just too stretched out and too coarse. So my point is, when you have a bold block with like that's very graphic and just simple, and you have a very detailed block that's similar but has like just a ton more little lines in it and you want them to show up, if you want those lines to show up, you really need to use like a tightly knit fabric that's very more delicate. You don't want something super coarse and heavy like burlap. I actually want to try this one more time on the chenille and see how that comes out. What do you guys think is going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen. Okay, let's try this. So once again, I'm going to push pretty hard in here. There's a lot of texture on, and even kind of like a pattern, almost like a twill, which basically is like a fancy way of saying like a diagonal line that runs through the fabric. So I'm curious how this will come out. Okay, this one worked out a little bit better. Definitely a lot of those little lines are not showing up, but you can see a few of them if you look real close. So that was kind of a learning experience for me too, because I don't normally print on this stuff. So we have all our little examples. We have our quilting cotton in the dark color, worked really well. We have our sheer, which came out a lot better than I expected. That's a synthetic. Our cotton linen, that's natural. Our burlap. And our really nice chenille print that may or may not wear correctly. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll be doing a lot more testing and experimenting later with some other projects coming up, but I hope that was helpful, and definitely let me know if you have any questions, any specific questions on any projects. So yeah.